Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health System. Your health is our legacy. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights.
Hello and welcome back to this edition of Bayou Time. Again, your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. And you know, many years ago, we learned the ability to separate church and state, but we also had the ability to go and worship. And there's so many people that don't have that luxury. And now in our area, we've got some challenges to some of these older, very beautiful churches that are needing some work, but we need to understand some of the history and the value that goes with them. Very glad to have with us Ms. Renee Richard. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Of course, she's a parishioner of St. Anne Catholic Church over in Napoleonville. And so let's just start with your history. Tell me your earliest memories of this particular church in Napoleonville.
This particular church, my entire life, my grandparents, 4 or 5 generations, all the way back to when the Acadians landed, have been at St. Anne's. But visiting my grandparents, going to church there from the time I was a child.
Okay. Yeah. And the one thing about it, and thank you, Jason, we appreciate it. We see it was established in 1909. It is a beautiful church. And here we appreciate Dwayne for being able to take some of these shots for us. But this church has been there for quite a while. And I'm only trying to imagine the generations of and the number of people who have walked down this aisle to get married.
Exactly. To give you a little background on this particular church, the parish itself was established in 1874.
Okay.
It was originally named St. Napoleon after the bishop or archbishop at this point of New Orleans, who granted them a parish after years and years of asking
for requesting, right?
And that little white church withstood time until the growth of the parish in 1909. What was happening at the time, when you look at St. Anne's, it is so large in comparison to Napoleonville, which is so small now, population 300. But at the time, there were so many immigrants coming in, besides the Acadians, the parish being agriculture by nature, a booming town then.
Right.
Italians were coming in at a rate of 500 to 1,000 a week along Bayou Donaldsonville to Raceland. So this is the turn of the century.
Yes, ma'am.
By 1909, the need, or 1907 actually, the need for a larger church was noted, and this is the church they built.
And it's beautiful. Again, it's it's cathedral style church, right? As you walk down with the beautiful archways, and you walk down in these beautiful columns, as we see how churches were built then, in a couple of years to build, or a few years to build. And then once it's built, it's literally not just a steeple, but a staple of the community. It was the greeting place. It was where people came. It's where people celebrated.
Everything.
Right? It's kind of start to finish. It's where they had the baptisms, the weddings, confirmations, and the funerals. First communion, everything, right? And so these churches really represent something very, very important. Tell me some of your most fond memories at this church. Can you think of one or two celebrations that were just outstanding? A particular wedding, several particular weddings. Now, I will tell you this. One church that stands out for me was the church where Mr. Moon Landrew had his funeral, and that church itself will always hold that for me, and it's very special for me. I thought about him just yesterday. But so, any particular events that really stick out for you?
Quite a few.
Okay.
I mean, just getting up for early mass and sitting in the second row, and I would recognize, as a child, recognizing so many of the elders of the town that I knew, growing up, that were friends of my grandparents, friends of my parents. It was like coming home, because I was born and raised in Baton Rouge. So to come back to St. Anne's, whether it was just a Sunday mass, was memorable. Because I knew all these people, that tapped me on the shoulder when I was a child, when they'd bring, to be an usher. I felt like I was always coming home, even though now I'm retired there.
Right.
There are too many marriages because my mom and dad are the only ones that left Napoleonville from their families. So my aunts, my uncles, my first cousins, all are in that.
They're all still
church.
and always have been.
Still there. And my great-grandfather donated a side altar. My great-grandfather donated when they renovated in the 1950s as one of the stained glass windows with his name. So as a child, looking at that, that window, the windows there are from the Emile Fry Studio of St. Louis. So a very famous stained glass company that does stained glass for churches all over the United States.
All over the world,
famous.
really. Yeah.
Yes.
And so it really is home. It really does feel like home. It has
always been home.
And here it is. So right or left? Where we're second row, second pew on the right or the left? On the right.
Second one on the right, always.
Always on the right, right?
Pew. Always on the right, second or third pew. It 6 a.m. Mass on Sunday mornings with my grandparents, my dad's parents.
6 a.m., is that what you said?
6 a.m.
6 a.m., wow.
Farmer's lifestyle.
Well, yeah, absolutely, because you guys had already been in the field, or somebody had been in the field prior to Mass, even at 6. And so it's just very, very interesting that when you feel at home, it's kind of like everybody feels like they've got their own spot. And so we talk about that quite often in churches all over the world, but especially in Catholic churches, I think, where you either go to the early Mass or you go to the late Mass, you have your spot. And you walk in and somebody's sitting in your spot, it's like, oh,
I know.
Who moved my whoopee? It's like I need my spot. And that's the comfort of feeling at home. And it's so very nice to see that St. Anne Church has done that and been that. And now as we finish up this first segment, I kind of want to let people know, I really want you to pay attention to the second segment. And the reason is because the church is in need of some repair. There are some real specific things that need to be done. And we're going to show you a lot of the damage that's been done. It's just one of those things, as we mentioned in the outset, that these churches are older and they very often require a great deal of work. And this one has been damaged over the years and been damaged here recently. And so, Ms. Renee, we thank you for your time. We'll ask you to stick around with us for another segment and do this, if that's okay. Very good. Guys, we're going to ask you to do that as well. Stick around as we spend a little time sharing with you some of the challenges that the St. Anne Church over in Napoleonville has experienced and what you can do to help us with it. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
From the moment you walk into the showroom floor at Trapp Cadillac, you understand our commitment to providing a truly exceptional experience for all returning and new customers.
Our goal is to make sure you're always comfortable while understanding the entire process of getting into your new Trapp Cadillac.
When you drive a Trapp Cadillac, you know performance, bold styling, and our assured commitment to service.
One thing you can always count on here at Trapp Cadillac is our excellent service experience.
Hello, and once again, thank you for joining us here on Bayou Time. Your host, Keith Weissite, licensed clinical social worker with Terrebonne Home Care. Very glad you're joining us. However you may be joining us, we appreciate it. Very glad to be visiting with Miss Renee Richard. Miss Renee, thank you for joining us once again. Of course, Miss Renee is a longtime parishioner of St. Anne Catholic Church in Napoleonville. Beautiful church on some beautiful property. And we're very, very glad to tell you that this church has been there since 1909. And since that time, it's required a little bit of help. And now it needs a lot more help. And so as we were able to go in and share some time and vision with you, thanks to Dwayne for being able to share with us all of this church and how beautiful it is. But he also was able to capture some of the challenges that this church is facing. And so the parish here is really asking for help. It's going to cost just over $500,000 to get this fixed. And so we want to show you some of the challenges that it's having both in the steeple and in the church. This is some of the termite damage that you see in the steeple.
Correct.
And again, you can tell how dramatic that is. This is some of the wood that's been pulled away because of all of the damage. And you can see here how terribly eaten up this is. And at heights like that, with something that was built in 1909, it requires a great deal of energy, effort, and, of course, money to repair. And so this again is inside of the church. You can see the church there in the background. You can see all of the termite damage here above these beautiful arched windows, as we talked about some of that stained glass that's named after so many different people and some of your family members as well. But so much of this damage, that wood is eaten away completely. Now here at the top of the church, and again of the beautiful arched ceiling, is a great deal of mold damage that we're seeing. And so that mold, of course, has got to be remediated, and they've been working on that and getting rid of that. But also, because of the height of that, it takes a great deal of effort, and it just costs a whole lot more money. It's so much more difficult than having to deal with mold on the floor, with mold on the ceiling like this. And so again, some great shots of that. And then we look inside the steeple itself, and there's so much more damage that we see, the termite damage that has been caused over the years as it's been eaten away. Here's some more mold damage as well. This is on the outside of the church in the walkway going into the church. And again, so many different areas that have been impacted. As you can see, the church has been weathered over the years. And, you know, over 100 years, you get a little weathered. That's just the way it works, I suppose. Here we see where there is a beehive, and we see these thousands of bees that are now inhabiting where the termites caused damage. The bees moved in, and they decided it would be a lovely home for them to be able to be there. And so here on the top part of the steeple, we have some other issues as we're seeing some of the damage. And then one of the more disturbing things for me, we're going to see here in just a moment, as we get to the top of the steeple, there is a swarm of red wasps. And you can see them if you look closely in the picture. Dwayne's going to get a little closer there of these shots. These are thousands and thousands of red wasps that are here living on the top of the steeple and on the cross on top of that steeple. And so just the drama, I suppose, if you will, of not only having this damage, but now we have insects who have moved in and chosen to, the house of worship is open to all, right? Yeah. And so we'll take all kinds. But also those are some other challenges that are being faced.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes, we were under termite contract. What ended up happening is there was a leak that was undetected in the roof. Water got in, which only compounded the problem, and then the termites. Once the termites were discovered, it was Formosa, and they can destroy something in relatively a very rapid time.
Yep.
So the damage has been halted. It's been halted for 4 years, but the challenge has been to find a contractor that is willing to take on the project and to get bids, which we have done.
Okay.
We have a contractor out of Baton Rouge that's going to do it. That's why we know our numbers.
Right. Congratulations.
The ceiling itself is, the mold has been completely remediated at this point, but the bid was $80,000 because of the scaffolding and the height.
Yep.
Just to get that section done.
Yeah.
So that is actually part 2.
Okay.
The bulk of our money right now will go towards getting it stabilized as far as where the wood damage is, which is extensive. Even with the video, it's hard to imagine that it's across the entire front of that church.
Of the church.
When you're looking at it overhead and you see that.
It's the whole front of the church, right? And so this is a shout out for those people that love Napoleonville. A shout out for anybody at any Catholic church, because quite frankly, you understand and know the value of being able to come together and help those brothers and sisters that need the help. And so St. Anne Catholic Church in Napoleonville is in need of help. And if we had one donor of $550,000, that would be fantastic. But it might be much easier if we've had 550,000 donors of $1 each. So anything people can give, we want to challenge them to do that. We want this church to be a staple for so many others. We want to heal the steeple. We want it to continue to be a staple in that community and for generations beyond to be able to see and experience this. Again, you're seeing shots of the St. Anne Catholic church in Napoleonville. Very, very beautiful. We've been having parishioner Miss Renee Richard, who's been there for a little while. We're not going to say how long, of that church, but you can see it is beautiful inside. Structurally, it needs a great deal of work, and we could use your help doing it. So if anybody's got the opportunity to do that, we'd love for them to help out, and so we appreciate that. Ms. Renee, thank you for your time and sharing your story with us. We appreciate it. Yes, ma'am. All right, that'll do it for this particular segment and this Bayou Time, but don't go anywhere. A lot more local programming right here on HTV.
Jack Bay down to Point Ocean, Thibodeau to Grand Caillou, HTV's part of you. Bayou Black down through Dulac, Southland Mall to City Hall, we'll bring the news to you. Raceland, St. Charles, Bayou Blue, Morgan City and Assumption too, where sugar cane is grown. So much to see on HTV. Stick with us 'cause we're your home.